I was 18 the night my mother tore my MIT acceptance letter in half. "This is not who we are," she said. I taped it back together in our bathroom at 4 a.m. I left at 5. I didn't come back for 7 years. What I brought back with me at my grandmother's 80th birthday party in front of 30 people. That's the part my mother still can't talk about. My name is Teresa Davis, and the tradition in my family was simple. The eldest daughter doesn't go to college. My grandmother followed it. My mother followed it. My aunt followed it. I'm the one who didn't. Here's what happened the day I went home. Welcome back to Dramatische Akte. This channel is for women who grew up holding everyone together, who learned to walk out without slamming a door, and who know that the loudest answer is sometimes just leaving the room. If you have ever taped something back together that someone you love tried to destroy, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. I grew up in a brick row house on Mahanango Street in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. 2 bedrooms upstairs, kitchen at the back. A grandmother in the front room who watched television with the volume turned all the way down. My father worked at Lawless Tool and Die 6 minutes by car. My mother stayed home. My sister Maddie was 13. I was 18. The tradition in our house had a shape. It looked like my grandmother's wooden recipe box on the kitchen counter. Oak. The word Davis carved across the lid. The box held 3 generations of index cards. Lasagna, pierogies, crooknick, applesauce cake. It also held the rule: the eldest daughter stays, the eldest daughter cooks, the eldest daughter marries someone within driving distance. My grandmother had done it, my mother had done it, my Aunt Carol had done it, I was next. I never said no out loud. That was not how we operated. I said no the way the women in my family said no. Quietly in private, in a place no one would look for me. That place was the school library on Garfield Avenue, 2nd floor, west window, the table behind the encyclopedias. I took the SAT in October. I took the ACT in November. I lied about where I was on Saturday mornings. My mother thought I was working a shift at the Patel family bakery for $10 cash. I was actually 3 Saturdays out of 4. The 4th Saturday, I was on a bus to Philadelphia for a test. I scored 1,560 on the SAT, 35 on the ACT. I told no one. I sent in 7 applications. 1 was to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. 6 were safety schools I could not afford. The big envelope arrived on a Thursday in March. I almost didn't make it upstairs in time. The mailbox was the kind with a red flag that nobody ever raised. I walked home from school at 3:18, the way I always did, and I saw the corner of the envelope sticking out before I reached the porch. MIT in red letters across the upper left. The envelope was thick. Thick was the thing every senior in America was waiting for. Thin meant no, thick meant yes. I tucked it under my coat, went straight upstairs, locked the bathroom door behind me, sat on the edge of the tub. The letter was 3 pages. The first line said, "Congratulations." The second line said, "Full need-based scholarship." The third line said, "Housing and meal plan included." I read the first sentence 11 times. I cried without sound. Sat there for what my watch later told me was 14 minutes. I had a plan, and the plan had been to say no. The plan had been to apply on principle in secret and then to decline if a yes ever came, and then to keep that decline tucked into the same place where I kept the test scores. The plan had been to know just to know that I could have. The plan had not anticipated full need. I read it a 12th time. I folded the letter in thirds. I put it under the bath mat. I went downstairs and ate dinner. My mother asked if I wanted seconds. I said, "No, thank you." She said I looked pale. I said I had a headache. I had 36 hours before the second envelope, the one with the housing forms and the parent affidavit, would arrive. My mother opened the mail every weekday at 4. I had Friday afternoon to figure out what I was going to do. I did not figure it out fast enough. Friday at 5:12, my mother was folding laundry on the dining table, white towels in one stack, dish rags in another, my father's machinist coveralls in a third. I came through the back door from school. I had been planning to retrieve the letter from under the bath mat that night after everyone was asleep and reshove it inside the cover of my chemistry textbook. The letter was on the table next to the dish rags. My mother did not look up. She kept folding. Bathroom trash isn't private, Teresa. I had not thrown the letter away. She had found it. She had read it. She had set it on the table to wait for me to walk in. I was going to tell you, I said. Tell me what? She still didn't look up. That you applied behind my back? That you took 2 tests we never agreed to? That you used my address for college mail? I started to explain. Full scholarship, no debt, 4 years of room and board. I had it ready in my head, the math of it, the lack of cost. My mother picked up the letter. She finally looked at me. She tore it down the middle slowly, all 3 pages at once. Then she turned the halves and tore them again. The pieces fell on the dining table, 4 rectangles of cream-colored paper with the red logo cut clean in half. This is not who we are. My grandmother in the front room did not look away from her television. My sister Maddie on the bottom stair was holding the banister with both hands. My father in the garage 2 rooms away did not hear a thing. The whole tearing took maybe 7 seconds. My mother did not yell. She had not raised her voice. That was the part I had not prepared for. I had prepared for shouting. I got calm. By 7:30 that evening, my Aunt Carol was at our kitchen table. She lived 8 blocks away. My mother had called her at 5:18, 6 minutes after the tearing, the receiver still warm in her hand. My grandmother had wheeled her armchair into the dining room. My father had retreated to the garage with a sandwich. Maddie was upstairs and was not invited. The 4 pieces of the letter were still on the table. No one had moved them. They were the centerpiece. The applesauce cake my mother had baked Wednesday sat next to them, untouched. My grandmother spoke first. The eldest daughter stays, always has. My Aunt Carol nodded. I stayed. Linda stayed. Teresa stays. That's how it works. I said, MIT offered me a full ride? My grandmother adjusted her glasses. Then they wasted a letter. I said it again, slower. 2 years tuition free, room and board included, engineering, a career I could build. I had it laid out the way I had laid it out in my head on times in the library. My mother said, your sister is 13. She needs you here. I said, Maddie will be fine. My Aunt Carol said, your aunt had her chance once. So did your mother. I missed the second half of that sentence. I heard chance and aunt and my brain stopped at aunt. I should have heard, so did your mother. I did not. My grandmother repeated herself. She liked repetition. The eldest daughter stays. No one asked me what I wanted. No one asked me what MIT had offered. No one asked me what my SAT score was. They had already decided. They had decided the night I was born. They had decided when my grandmother was born. The conversation in the dining room was procedural. I stopped arguing at 8:15. I went upstairs at 10 o'clock. I did not sleep. I waited. At midnight, my mother went to bed. At 12:30, my father came inside from the garage and made the floorboards creak past my door. At 1:15, the house was quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator hum from the kitchen. I went down at 1:40. The 4 pieces of the letter were still on the dining table. My mother had not thrown them out. She had left them as a lesson. I gathered them. I took them to the bathroom upstairs, locked the door, sat on the tile floor with my back against the tub. Scotch tape. Mom kept a roll in the medicine cabinet for the labels on her prescription bottles. I pulled the strip slow. I taped each tear like a stitch. My mother had taught me to mend things. She just had not said which things. Hems, yes. Buttons, yes. Letters from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, no. The sentence about the scholarship ran across 2 tape lines. I could still read it. I folded the letter into thirds. I put it in the inside chest pocket of my denim jacket, the one that closed. I went back to my room, opened the bottom drawer of my dresser, $340 in cash saved from babysitting the Patel kids next door over the past 2 years. A printed Greyhound schedule I had downloaded at the library and folded into eighths in October, Boston route. 5:22 a.m. departure from Pottsville. I wrote a note for Maddie, half a page. I told her I loved her. I told her I would write. I told her not to be afraid. I slipped it under her pillow at 3:40 while she slept with her mouth open. I went down the stairs in socks. The light in the garage was on. I had expected it to be off. My father was standing at his workbench. Sleeves rolled, hands greasy, the carburetor from the 1992 Buick that did not run open on a clean rag. He was not fixing it. He was pretending to. He had been waiting. I stood in the doorway with my coat on and my duffel bag at my feet. He turned. He looked at me the way he looked at customers who came to the tool shop with a problem they could not name. He nodded once. Your mother loves you, Teresa. I know. He wiped his hands on the rag. He went into his back pocket and took out his wallet. He counted out four $20 bills. He held them out. I took them, $80. He had $80 in his wallet on a Friday after payday, and he had decided somewhere between dinner and 1:40 a.m. to give all 80 of it to me. For the bus, he said, I put the bills inside my jacket with the letter. He did not ask where I was going. He did not need me to tell him. He had heard my mother on the phone with Carol. He had heard the tearing through the wall. He had been awake the same way I had been awake. I did not say thank you. I did not say goodbye. He did not reach for me, and I did not reach for him. He turned back to the carburetor. I picked up my duffel. I walked out the side door of the garage into the alley. It was 4:11 a.m. The temperature was 31 degrees. I could see my breath. The taped letter sat against my collarbone, folded into thirds, $80 on top of it. The Greyhound station in Pottsville was a glass cinder block waiting room attached to a Sunoco gas pump 1 4/10 miles from my house. I walked it in 24 minutes. My duffel bag was a navy nylon Eastpak with one broken strap. It contained 3 changes of clothes, a paper bag of Catcher in the Rye, my SAT prep book, my high school transcript folded twice, my driver's license, a spare pair of glasses, and a Ziploc bag with my toothbrush in it. That was every item I owned that mattered. I bought my ticket at the window from a man named Earl. Boston Greyhound, $89. The bus left at 5:22 a.m. and arrived at South Station at 6:54 p.m., 13 hours and 32 minutes. I paid with 320s, 110 141s. I had $251 left. I boarded at 5:14. I took a window seat behind the driver. The seat next to me stayed empty. The bus pulled out at 5:22 on the dot. I watched our street slide past, 3 blocks east of the station, our house, the kitchen light on, the upstairs dark. My mother's silhouette behind the kitchen window with a coffee cup. She was watching the bus go. I'm almost sure of it. I did not wave. She did not see me. Maddie's bedroom light came on at 5:30. She had found the note. The light stayed on for 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Then it went out. I do not know what she did between minute 1 and minute 2. I have wondered for 7 years. I took the taped letter out of my jacket, read the scholarship sentence one more time, folded it, put it back, fell asleep against the window, $340 from babysitting, 80 more from my dad, 1 taped letter. It was enough. South Station at 6:54 p.m. smelled like diesel and pretzel salt. I walked from South Station to MIT Student Services with my duffel on my back. It was 5 miles. I had paper directions printed at the Pottsville Library 2 weeks earlier. I arrived at the Office of First-Generation Student Programs at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday in March. The office was closed. I sat on the floor outside the door. I opened my SAT prep book and pretended to study. So the security guard would not move me along. He moved me along at 10:15. I slept in a study lounge in the basement of the student center on a vinyl couch the color of wet sand with my duffel as a pillow. I slept 4 hours. On Monday morning at 8, a woman named Dr. Marina Ortiz opened her office door, saw me sitting on the bench outside it, and said, "You're early?" I said, "I came early." She said, "How early?" I said, 3 days. I had not eaten a real meal since the bus station in Hartford, where I had bought a hot dog. Dr. Ortiz took one look at me and walked me down the hall to the cafeteria where she had a faculty meal pass. She bought me eggs and toast and orange juice. She watched me eat. She did not say anything until I was finished. Then she said, "Tell me what you have." I had the taped letter. I had $316 left. I had a duffel bag with the broken strap. I had no parent affidavit signed. I had no proof of income because my parents would not provide it. Dr. Ortiz looked at the taped letter for a long time. She turned it over. She turned it back. She said, "Keep that." I started to put it back in my jacket. She stopped me. Frame it cheap, but keep it where you can see it. That was my first week at MIT. The first year passed the way years do when you are working. I took 18 credit hours each semester plus a summer session, and I worked 20 hours a week in the material science lab and another 12 at the dining hall. My grade point average at the end of freshman year was 3.76. I went up to 3.89 sophomore year. I emailed my mother twice. The first email was the second week of school, my new address, and the dorm phone. The second was after fall finals, a short paragraph that ended with, "I miss you." Neither got a reply. I stopped emailing. October of sophomore year, 11 p.m., I checked my MIT email before bed. There was a message from Madison_1994 at Yahoo. I did not recognize the address. I almost deleted it. Then I read the subject line. Mom, the body was 3 sentences. She told the church, "You're dead." The priest asked at coffee hour. Aunt Carol confirmed, people believe it. It was signed. Maddie. I read the email 3 times. I closed the laptop. I went into the kitchen of the apartment I shared with 2 other scholarship students, and I drank a glass of water, and I came back. I read it a 4th time. My mother had buried me, not metaphorically. She had told the parishioners of St. John the Baptist on Howard Avenue in Pottsville that I had passed. My Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, had been the corroborating witness. The priest, Father Hennessy, had asked at the coffee hour after the 11 a.m. Mass. The dead daughter narrative was easier than the live daughter who had refused to stay. My mother had chosen the lie. So had my aunt. The whole town would now treat my mother with a kind of soft solemnity, the way you treat someone with a tragedy in the recent past. I did not reply to Maddie. I did not know what to say to her in October of sophomore year. I closed the laptop. I went to bed at 11:40. I did not sleep until 2:20. The payphone in the lobby of the MIT Student Center, the one outside the post office, rang for me on a Tuesday in March of junior year at 4:11 p.m. I was walking past it on my way to a problem set group. The desk attendant flagged me. She said, "Teresa Davis, there's a man on the line says he's your father." I had not heard his voice in 2 years and 4 months. I picked up Teresa. "Dad, Grandma had a stroke. Mild. She's home. She's asking for you." I stood with the receiver against my left ear and watched a freshman drop a textbook on the floor. I said, "When did it happen?" 3 weeks ago." I let the silence sit. He sat in it too. He had called me at a payphone on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks after the event with no advanced email, with no warning, with my mother's hand surely somewhere near his elbow. I said she had 3 weeks of asking and you waited until now to call. He did not answer. I said, "Tell her I'm in finals. I'm sorry." I hung up. Finals were not for another 6 weeks. I knew it. He knew it. The lie was a gift to both of us. It let me hang up without saying no. It let him tell my mother I had been studying. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment and I went through my logic the way I went through my problem sets. The math was Grandma had a stroke. Grandma was home. Grandma did not want me there. Grandma had wanted me to stay home 7 years ago and she had not changed her mind. My father had been told to call. My father had called. My answer had been a small lie that gave everyone an exit. I did not feel guilty. I noted with some surprise that I did not feel guilty. I went to bed at 10:30. I slept 8 hours for the first time in 3 months. If you have ever had your dad call you with someone else's guilt, your mother's, your grandmother's, your aunt's, and you knew before you picked up that the call wasn't really from him, I would love to hear what you said. Drop it in the comments. And if you are new to Calm Drama Stories, hit subscribe. Sunday's story is about a woman who answered her phone for the last time. Senior year December, I moved off campus to a studio apartment over a sandwich shop on Massachusetts Avenue, 3 subway stops from the lab. My rent was $840 a month. My stipend covered $700 of it. The lab covered the rest in exchange for 15 hours of weekly research assistantship. I had a bookshelf, a futon, a small desk under the window, a kettle, a wok, and a roommate named Maya, who was 3 years into her own doctorate in chemical engineering. Maya was from Lagos, Nigeria. She had left her family at 19 for similar reasons. We did not talk about it. The frame was $14 at the CVS on massive black plastic 8 inches by 10 inches. I had carried the taped letter folded inside the cover of my sophomore year organic chemistry textbook for 2.5 years. The folds were soft. The tape was browning. I had not added more tape. The tears were not stitching loose. The letter held. I unfolded the letter on the kitchen counter the night I bought the frame. I smoothed the creases as flat as I could with the back of a spoon. I slid the letter behind the glass and tightened the 4 metal tabs. I hung it on a nail above my desk. Maya came home at midnight. She made a cup of tea. She walked over to the desk and looked at the frame for 30 seconds. "Why is it taped?" My mom tried to throw it away once. Maya nodded. She went to her room. That was all I said about it for the next 18 months. I did not need to say more. The letter was on the wall. The tape was browning slow. Anyone who walked into my apartment and asked got the same 2-word answer. Anyone who did not ask did not need to know. It was an artifact. It was a calendar I did not have to mark. Every day I sat at the desk, I looked up. Every day I looked up, I remembered I had taped it. I crossed the stage at Killian Court on a Friday in May. The weather was 68 degrees, partly cloudy, no rain. The ceremony began at 10 a.m. My section, mechanical engineering, walked at 11:42. My name was the 43rd name called out of 212 in my section. I had sent 4 invitations to Pottsville 3 months earlier. Mother, father, grandmother, Aunt Carol. Mother's came back, stamped return to sender. The envelope had been opened, the contents read. The envelope resealed with a different brand of tape than the one she had used to repair my chemistry homework in 8th grade and put back in the mailbox. She had taken the time to send it back. She had not taken the time to write anything on it. Father's was opened. No reply. I learned later from Maddie that he had read it on the porch and put it in his coverall pocket. Grandmother's was used as a coaster for her morning coffee. The water ring was on the cardboard backing. Maddie sent me a photograph 6 months later. The water ring was perfect, like she had scented the mug on purpose. Aunt Carol's was thrown out unopened. I had reserved 4 seats in the family section, rows G through J on the aisle. 3 were empty at 11:32 when the ceremony started. I had hoped, the way you hope for things you know are not going to happen, that one of them would be filled. Dr. Ortiz came. She sat in the first seat. She wore a navy blazer and she clapped for me when I crossed the stage. The only person in row G who clapped for any single graduate by name. My faculty advisor, Dr. Sunita Reddy, sat in the second seat. Maya sat in the third. The 4th seat stayed empty. After the ceremony, the 3 of them took me out for Indian food at Diva on Hampshire Street. Dr. Ortiz ordered the lassi. We did not talk about who had not come. We talked about my doctorate starting in the fall in the same lab as Dr. Reddy. I scanned the crowd at the end. I did not find her. The package came on a Tuesday in July, my first month as a doctoral student, 2 months after graduation. It was a brown cardboard box, 12 by 10 by 8, the kind you buy at the UPS store. The shipping label was hand-printed in pencil. The postmark was Pottsville. The return address line was blank. I opened it at the kitchen counter at 6:15 p.m. with a steak knife. Inside the cardboard box was Grandma Margaret's wooden recipe box, the same one. Oak Davis carved across the lid, the varnish darker than I remembered, the hinge stiffer. I lifted the lid. The index cards were still there. Lasagna with mozzarella, pierogies, kupnik, applesauce cake, Frank's chili, hot milk sponge cake, Polish white borscht, 53 cards in my grandmother's handwriting and 4 in my mother's. Under the cards, the cardboard insert lifted out. Under the insert, lying flat against the bottom of the box, was a yellowed manila envelope. I sat down on the floor. Inside the manila envelope, 3 items. The first item was a high school transcript from Pottsville Area High School, class of 1991. The name on the transcript was Linda Marie Walsh. Linda, my mother. The grade point average was 3.94, National Honor Society, senior class secretary, top 5%. The second item was an acceptance letter from Lehigh Carbon Community College, registered nurse program, fall semester, 1991. Partial scholarship, $1,200 per semester. Total cost after scholarship, $1,780 per semester. The letter was dated April 3, 1991. The third item was the same acceptance letter in 2 pieces taped back together with brittle yellowed masking tape. The masking tape had cracked along the spine. The 2 pieces were still attached, but the tape had given up sometime in the last decade. My mother had taped her own scholarship letter back together in 1991, and then she had kept it for 33 years. The roll of Scotch tape in our bathroom medicine cabinet, the one I had used at 1:40 a.m. 7 years ago, that roll had been her roll. She had taught me without ever telling me what she had taped. I sat with the 3 pieces of paper on my kitchen counter for 2 hours. I did not cry. I do not remember thinking. I remember the kettle was on and I forgot about it, and Maya turned it off when she came in around 8. Maya looked at the papers. She did not ask. She made tea for both of us. She sat across from me. I worked the math out. My mother had been 18 in 1991. She had had the same grade point average I had had. She had been the senior class secretary. She had applied to community college on her own. Someone had torn her letter. My grandmother, almost certainly the same grandmother who had sat in the front room with the television volume low. My mother had taped the letter back together with masking tape, which was what was available in 1991 in the Davis kitchen. She had hidden the taped letter at the bottom of the wooden recipe box that she would inherit when my grandmother died. She had stayed. She had married my father in October of 1992. She had had me in May of 2002. She had spent 25 years cooking from the cards above the letter, then she had torn mine. I understood the math, I did not forgive it. The understanding and the forgiveness are not the same thing. The understanding said she is also someone's eldest daughter. The not forgiving said she had the tape in her hand and she chose to repeat it. At the bottom of the manila envelope was a photograph, 4x6 color, faded a little. It was my mother at 18 standing on the porch of a building in Schneckville, Pennsylvania, wearing nursing scrubs that did not yet belong to her. She was holding a Lehigh Carbon Community College brochure. She was smiling. I had never seen her smile that way. I have looked at every photograph in our family albums. She is in maybe 40 of them. In none of those 40 does she smile the way she is smiling in the Lehigh Carbon photograph. I sat with the math of it. 33 years between her tape and mine, the roll was the same brand. The lab spun out a company in my second year of doctoral work. It was called SenScore. We made mass spectrometry sensors for hospital clinical labs, faster detection of bloodstream infections than the standard culture method, 16 hours instead of 24 to 72, patent filed January, university spin-out paperwork signed March. Dr. Reddy was chief scientific officer, 5 graduate students were named on the patent, including me. My founder equity grant was 2.4% of the company, vesting over 4 years with a 1-year cliff. The cliff vested on a Tuesday in March of my year 6 at MIT. Sensor closed Series A, funding 11 months later at a pre-money valuation of $31 million. My vested shares on paper were worth $750,000 in change. The remaining unvested portion was worth as much again. I told nobody in Pottsville. The night of the cliff, I wrote one email to Maddie at her old Yahoo. The subject was, "Hi, the body was, okay? Hope you are." I had not emailed her in 5 years. Maddie replied at 4:00 a.m. the same day. She must have had email notifications on her phone with the sound on. The reply was, "Haley just turned 5. She's smart. T like you smart." I had not known how old Maddie's older child was. I had not known her name. I learned both in one sentence. I read the email twice. I went to bed at 2:30. Maddie sent a follow-up 2 days later. A picture of a 5-year-old in pink corduroy with a magnetile castle. I saved it to a folder on my desktop labeled M. I added pictures to that folder over the next 8 months when she sent them. 16 pictures by the end of the year. I did not reply to most of them. I replied to 1 or 2 with a single emoji. I did not yet know what I was going to do about the math of $750,000 on paper. I knew I had time. I knew Haley was 5. I knew the next eldest daughter conversation in our family was approximately 12 years away, or so I thought. The second call from my father came 2 years and 3 months after the first one. October. I was in the lab at 6:20 p.m. running a calibration on a new detector. My phone vibrated on the bench. Unknown number, Pennsylvania area code. I picked up because I had stopped expecting to recognize the area code. Teresa. Dad. Grandma's 80th is in 6 weeks. They want you there. Your mother. I sat on the lab stool. Your mother has been telling everyone you didn't get into MIT, that you flunked out. That's the story now. Up at the church, up at Carol's. He paused. Why are you calling, Dad? Because they're starting on Haley. I closed the laptop on the calibration. The detector hummed. What do you mean starting? The talk's about staying. Carol started it at Easter. Linda's nodding. Maddie isn't saying no. They're laying it out for her so she'll think it was her idea by the time she's 12. She's 5. She's 5. I picked up a pen from the bench. I wrote on the back of my hand. 6 weeks. Haley birthday. How do you know they're starting now? Carol bought her a play kitchen. I stared at the pen mark. I said, "Thank you for telling me, Teresa. I should have called sooner." Yes. I hung up. I walked out of the lab. I did not finish the calibration. I did not sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad, and I made a list the way I made any list in the lab. Numbered, column, falsifiable. Item 1, what I wanted to say. Answer, nothing, actions only. Item 2, what I wanted to leave behind. Answer, the taped letter, the 1991 photograph, a document. Item 3, who the audience was. Answer, Haley. Only Haley. Everyone else was witness scaffolding. Item 4, when. Answer, my grandmother's 80th birthday, Saturday in November, 6 weeks out, 30 witnesses, including church friends, public enough that the conversation could not be later denied by my mother. Item 5, what I would not do. Answer, argue, raise my voice, justify, apologize for being late. Item 6, what I would do if my mother tried to stop me at the door. Answer, stand on the porch, speak through the screen. Haley would still hear me. Item 7, funding. Answer, a trust. Money to be set aside in a registered account before the trip so the document I would lay on the table would be real, not promised. I made one final note at the bottom. This is not revenge. This is a controlled demonstration. Inputs, outputs, controls. I went to bed at 5:20 a.m. I slept for 2 hours. I woke up at 7:30. I called the lawyer Maya's brother had used for a stock purchase agreement. Her name was Sarah Clean. Sarah Clean had an office on Boylston Street in the Back Bay. She charged $380 an hour. I went on a Thursday at 4:15 p.m. I brought a notebook. I told her what I wanted. A trust funded by liquidated equity, $250,000, beneficiaries. Any female or male descendant of Margaret Davis, age 17 or older, accepted into any accredited college, university, or trade school in the United States or Canada. 2-year, 4-year certificate program did not matter. Haley, my niece, would be the first eligible at age 17. Her brother Cody would be eligible too. Sarah said, "You want the boys included." I said, "The tradition was gendered. The trust isn't. That's the point." She drafted the document over the next 8 days. We met twice more. The corpus was wired from my SenScore share liquidation on a Monday. The trust signed and notarized 11 days after our first meeting. Sarah was the trustee. I was the grantor. The instrument was named the Davis Daughters Education Trust with a footnote clarifying that it covered all descendants. I kept the daughters in the title on purpose. Sarah handed me the signed document in a cream-colored envelope with her firm letterhead. She asked twice if I wanted to add a note for the family. I said no both times. She accepted that the second time without asking again, $250,000 notarized in 11 days. The notary asked me twice if I wanted to add a note. I said no. If you have ever put a sum of money behind a younger version of yourself, a niece, a cousin, a kid down the street, and you did not ask for credit, I want to hear it. Tell me in the comments what you set up and why. And if you are enjoying this one, hit subscribe. There is a story coming Sunday about a woman who paid for a stranger's tuition and didn't tell her own family. The Friday before the party, I packed. The briefcase was a brown leather saddleback from a graduation gift Maya had insisted on for my bachelor's. I had used it twice. It was small, 12 inches by 15, 2 compartments, a flap, a single brass buckle. Inside, in order from bottom to top, the trust document in its cream-colored envelope. My PhD candidate status letter from the MIT Department of Mechanical Engineering on letterhead, signed by Dr. Reddy as my advisor. My Bachelor of Science diploma in its 5x7 folio. The photograph of my mother at 18, the Lehigh Carbon Community College brochure photograph slipped between the pages of the diploma folio so it would not bend. On top, the taped MIT letter. I removed it from the frame. I refolded it along the original thirds. I placed it on top of the diploma. That was the briefcase. I dressed for the trip on Saturday morning at 5 a.m., Dark navy slacks, white button-D down, plain collar, no embellishment, black flats, hair down, no makeup, no jewelry, no wedding ring because I have never had one, no earrings because I do not own any. The only item with shine on my person was the brass buckle of the briefcase. I dressed like the engineer I was. No costume, no statement. The briefcase did the talking. I flew from Logan to Philadelphia. I rented a charcoal-colored Honda CR-V at the airport. I drove west on Interstate 76. I stopped once for coffee. Pottsville on a Saturday morning in November looks the way it has always looked. Brick row houses on Mahanango. Dollar General on Center Street. 2 empty storefronts where there had once been a bakery and a hardware store. The bakery had been the Patel family bakery. The Patels had moved to Schuylkill Haven 6 years ago after the bakery had closed. I drove past my old high school. The marquee read, "Go Tide." The football team was the Crimson Tide. Some things did not change. I drove past the Greyhound station. The cinder block waiting room was still there. The Sunoco pump beside it had been replaced with a touchscreen model. The same Earl was probably no longer behind the ticket window. Earl had been 62 when I had bought my ticket. Earl would be 69 now. I drove past the Goodwill on Center Street. In the window display was a kitchen apron, a green and yellow print folded over a hanger. It looked like the aprons my mother had worn every Saturday morning of my childhood. Same length, same hem, different print. The Goodwill rotated stock weekly. The apron in the window today was not my mother's. It was someone's. It was someone like my mother's. I did not stop. I did not slow down. I drove past at the speed limit. I turned onto Mahanango Street at 10:14 a.m. I parked the Honda at the curb across from the Davis house. The mailbox at the curb had been repainted blue. I sat in the rental and counted to 100. I walked up the 4-porch steps at 10:42 a.m. I knocked twice with the back of my middle knuckle the way my father knocked when he came in from the garage. My mother opened the door at 3/4 width. She was wearing an apron, same brand, different print from the one in the Goodwill window. Her hair was almost half gray. She had not lost or gained weight. Her face looked the same and not the same. The way faces look after 7 years, you have not seen them. She did not say, "Come in." She did not say, "Teresa." She did not say, "Hello." She said, "You're early by 18 minutes. The party starts at noon. Stay in the car." She closed the door. Through the gap before the door shut, I saw the kitchen counter behind her. The recipe box was on it, Davis carved across the lid. It looked the way it had always looked in the same spot. I had returned the box to its place by sending it back the previous summer with a note from Maya's mother's handwriting that said, "Only found this at Sabina's apartment. Thought you'd want it back." It had worked. The box was home. My mother had no idea I had ever held it. I walked back to the Honda CR-V. I sat in the driver's seat. I turned the heat to 68. I waited. It was 10:43 a.m. The party started at noon. 18 minutes was 18 minutes. Cars started arriving at 11:15. I had a clear view from the Honda. Aunt Carol and her husband Donnie in the cream-colored Buick LeSabre. Carol got out first, heavier than I remembered, her gray hair in a hard perm. She glanced at the rental across the street and pretended not to. Maddie next, 11:22, in a green Subaru Outback. Maddie was a woman now, 23. She lifted Cody, the 2-year-old, out of the back on her hip with the practiced efficiency of someone who had not had a hand free for 3 years. Tim, her husband, lifted Haley out the other side. Haley was wearing a pink dress and white tights and a small navy cardigan. She held a plastic bay horse in her left hand. Her hair was the same blonde mine had been at 5. Cousins followed. 3 of mine from my father's side, 2 from my mother's side, the Walsh cousins, the 2 church friends of my grandmother's, Mrs. Hardesty and Mrs. Vargas, in a Cadillac driven by Mrs. Hardesty's grandson. At 11:53, Maddie crossed the street. She had taken off her coat. She came right up to the driver's window. I rolled it down. She said, "I sent you the box." "I know. It took me 5 years to find it. She had it in the attic. Thank you." "Are you going to make a scene?" "No, I'm going to make an option." She looked at me for 2 seconds, then she nodded once. She walked back across the street. I walked in at 12:08 p.m. The living room had 30 people in it, folding chairs along the wall, plastic tablecloths, a cake on the dining table, white with yellow piping that read Happy 8th G. A second cake on the counter, lemon smaller. The recipe box was still on the counter. Conversation in the room paused when the door opened, then it stopped. My mother from the kitchen archway said one word. She came? My grandmother in the armchair, the same green corduroy armchair she had been sitting in 7 years ago, looked up over reading glasses. The reading glasses were new, the frames were the same. She said, "Teresa, you look thin." "Hi, Grandma." Aunt Carol from the dining table said, "Took you long enough. Sorry I missed Christmases." Carol opened her mouth. My father crossed the room from the kitchen. He had aged 7 years. He hugged me. 2 seconds. He let go. He said nothing. He went back to the kitchen. I stood in the entryway with the briefcase in my right hand. Haley was on the carpet in front of the television 10 feet from me, playing with the bay plastic horse. Cody was on Maddie's lap. Tim was talking to Donnie. The room remembered how to talk in about 15 seconds. The volume came back up. Mrs. Hardesty asked Mrs. Vargas if she wanted coffee. I sat down on the folding chair nearest the front window. I put the briefcase on the carpet beside my left foot. At 12:31, my mother picked up a butter knife and tapped it against the rim of a water glass. The room went down to a hush. My father stepped to the kitchen doorway with a coffee cup. Maddie set Cody on the carpet next to Haley. My grandmother stood up. The cane took her weight on her left. She used the back of the armchair with her right. "Thank you all for coming," she said. 80 years. A gentle laugh from Mrs. Vargas, a clap from Donnie. "I want to say something about our family." She looked down at Haley, who was rolling the bay horse along the edge of the coffee table. "Davis women stay close. We don't chase, we don't drift, we don't get above ourselves. My Linda stayed, my Carol stayed, my Maddie stayed." She paused, she looked at Haley again, "And one day soon, my Haley will stay too." She lifted her water glass to staying. 28 glasses went up, 28 voices to staying. Aunt Carol's was the loudest. My father lifted his coffee cup halfway and stopped at his sternum. He did not say the words. 2 glasses did not go up, mine did not. I was sitting with my hands folded in my lap. The water glass was on the side table by my elbow. I did not touch it. Mattie did not. She had picked it up. She had brought it to chest height. She had held it there. She had not raised it to her mouth. She had not said the words. She set it back down. My mother did not see Maddie's glass. My mother was looking at me. I shifted the briefcase from beside my left foot to the floor directly in front of me. The toast applause lasted 9 seconds. Conversation came back. My grandmother sat down hard. Mrs. Hardesty went to refill her coffee. Maddie picked Cody up off the carpet. My mother crossed the room. She came to the kitchen doorway nearest my chair. She kept her voice low. "Don't." I looked up. "Whatever you're thinking, don't." "I'm not thinking. I already decided. You will not embarrass this family today. I'm not going to embarrass anyone." "Then what are you going to do?" "I'm going to talk to Haley." My mother's left hand went to her hip. Her right hand was holding a dish towel. The dish towel was the same brand of cotton that my grandmother bought in 3 acts at the Bosovs downtown. I had folded those dish towels 3,000 times in the kitchen of this house growing up. The fold was a Davis fold, trifold, hem out. "She's 5, Teresa. I know you don't get to walk in here after 7 years. And Mom, she stopped. I said, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to put something in front of Haley and I'm going to leave. You can do whatever you want after I'm gone." My mother said, "This is my house?" I said, "It's Grandma's house." She did not answer that. She turned on her heel. She went back into the kitchen. Through the archway, I watched her wring the dish towel between both hands, twisting it the way she twisted dough. I picked up the briefcase. I stood. I walked across the carpet toward Haley, who was still playing with the bay horse. I knelt on one knee. The room got quiet again. Mrs. Hardesty's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Haley looked up at me with the bay horse in her left hand. She had her mother's eyes. She did not know who I was. I had been gone before she was born. I said, "Hi, Haley. I'm your Aunt Teresa." Haley said, "Okay." I opened the briefcase on the carpet. I took out the taped MIT letter. I unfolded it. I laid it on the carpet between us. The browning tape was visible across the scholarship sentence. This is from when I was 18. Grandma might tell you about it someday. If she doesn't, your mom will. Haley looked at the letter. She did not pick it up. If you ever want to go to school anywhere, high school, college, trade school, anywhere, this is a letter that says, someone said yes to me. Someone will say yes to you too. You don't have to take the same letter. You'll get your own. From the kitchen doorway, my mother said, Teresa, stop. I kept my eyes on Haley. I reached into the briefcase. I took out the cream-colored envelope. I stood up. I walked 4 steps to the coffee table where my grandmother's cake plate sat. I laid the envelope on the coffee table. This is $250,000. It's in a trust. It's for any girl in this family who wants school or any boy. Cody, too. I looked at Maddie. Cody, too. Aunt Carol stood up from her dining chair. You can't do this here. I did it 3 weeks ago. I'm just telling you now. My grandmother rose from the green armchair. The cane took her weight again. Her face was red. Teresa Marie Davis, the eldest daughter, stays. I stood up from the carpet. I looked at my mother in the kitchen archway, not at my grandmother. My mother said, "This is not who we are." I said it the way she had said it. Same volume, same tempo, no theatrics. Then I'm not who we are. The room went silent. 28 faces. Haley on the carpet picked up the taped letter. She held it up at her shoulder. She held it up to her mother. Maddie kneeled beside her daughter. She took the letter from Haley's hand. She held it. She did not hand it back to me. I took the photograph from the briefcase. I walked to the dining table. I laid the photograph face up next to the cake. Linda at 18 in nursing scrubs. The smile. I said nothing. My mother stepped into the dining room. She looked at the photograph. 4 seconds. She picked it up. She turned it over. She turned it back. She set it down. She said, "Where did you?" I did not answer. She said, "Where?" I waited. She turned. "Frank, where did she, Frank?" My father in the kitchen archway did not move. He had a coffee cup. He set it on the counter behind him. He did not look at her. My mother turned back to me. Her voice came up. "You went through my things. You stole my... Maddie sent the recipe box." "What?" "Maddie found the box in the attic. Maddie sent it to me. I read what was in it." Maddie, still on the carpet next to Haley, did not stand up. She did not deny it. She did not confirm it. She held the taped letter against her chest. My mother said, "You don't get to." Her voice was loud now, the kind of loud my mother almost never reached. My grandmother sat back down hard. Aunt Carol crossed herself. I picked up the briefcase. The briefcase was lighter now. The trust document was on the coffee table. The photograph was on the dining table. The taped letter was with Haley, the PhD letter and the diploma I had left in the briefcase. They had not been the point. I walked to the door. I put my hand on the knob. I turned to my mother. I said one thing. "I taped mine too, Mom. Same brand of tape." I opened the door. I walked out. The door closed behind me. From the porch, I could hear my mother's voice rising, a sound I had not heard her make before. I walked to the rental. I did not look back. I sat in the rental Honda at 10:07 p.m. I put the key in the ignition. I did not turn it. The heat I had left on at 68 had been off for 3 hours. The car was cold. A knock on the window. Maddie. She was holding the taped letter and the cream-colored envelope. She had her coat on now, her breath in the air. I rolled the window down. She said, "Haley wants to keep this." "She can." The trust. "Is it real?" Notarized. Sarah Klein, Boston, the numbers on the cover sheet. Tim's going to be hard about it. Tim doesn't have to sign anything. Haley is the beneficiary. You're the custodial parent. He's not on the paperwork. She breathed out white air. "What about Cody?" "Cody too, read page 3. She nodded. She held the letter and the envelope against her chest. "Are you coming back?" "I don't know yet." "Okay." She did not say anything else. She walked back across the street. She went inside. The door closed. I turned the key. The engine started. The third call from my father came 3 months after the party, a Wednesday in February, 6:40 p.m. I was at my kitchen counter in Cambridge cutting onions. The phone vibrated. Pennsylvania area code. I picked up Teresa. Dad, Haley just started a Saturday science program at Lehigh Carbon Community College STEM camp for elementary kids. Maddie used the trust to register her. The onions on the cutting board were half diced. I stopped cutting. It's 6 Saturdays, 5 hours each. Maddie's driving her. Tim said it was Maddie's money to spend. Maddie said it was Haley's. Thank you for telling me. Your mother won't speak to me about it. She knows, she just won't say it. Okay, I should have called sooner. Teresa, 7 years sooner, yes. A long pause. Haley wants to write you. Can Maddie send you her address? Yes. All right. He waited. I did not say anything else. He hung up. I went back to the onions. I finished the dicing. I sautéed them with garlic and olive oil. I made pasta. I ate at the kitchen counter standing. The Lehigh Carbon Community College was the school that had sent my mother her letter in 1991. Haley was starting at 5. The envelope from Pottsville arrived 3 weeks after my father's call. Pink paper address in Maddie's handwriting on the front. Return address in Haley's kindergarten handwriting, all caps backwards, Y. Inside 2 pieces of paper, the first was a letter from Haley. Crayon, pink and red. 6 lines. Dear Aunt Teresa, Mom said you went to MIT. I am drawing a building. The building has my name on it. I am 5. Love, Haley. The second was a drawing, a red brick building, 3 stories, 6 windows. Across the top in red crayon, Haley folded inside the drawing was the original taped MIT letter, the same one I had laid on the carpet in front of her. Tape Browning folds soft. On the inside of the letter, on the back of the bottom third, Haley had stuck a yellow post-it with one sentence in adult handwriting that I knew was Maddie's, dictated by Haley. I'm done with this one. I'll write my own. I put the drawing on the refrigerator. I put the letter back in the frame. I hung the frame above my desk. The tape was still browning. The browning had reached the scholarship sentence. The sentence was still legible. I learned something at my grandmother's 80th that I should have learned at my mother's tearing. The people who tell you who you are will tell you for as long as you let them. The only way to answer is to be someone else. Quietly, without arguing, until they have to look at you and decide whether to look away or look up. My mother is still deciding. That's my story. 1 torn letter, 1 roll of Scotch tape, and a 5-year-old in a brick building she hasn't built yet. If this story reminded you of a younger sibling, a niece, a daughter, someone whose tradition isn't done with her yet, take that as a sign. Open the option for her. Today, this week. And if you know a woman who taped something back together, share this with her, drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next